Hey everybody, how's it going? I hope you're having a lovely day. So today I'd like to discuss an article that I saw in Bloomberg related to the US worker shortage. It says here that millions of US workers are still missing after the pandemic. Where did they go? Economists can't agree where America's missing workers went. Even the size of the US labor shortage is now in question. I wanted to discuss a couple of the points that I saw in this article. To be clear, I haven't really been an employee for 15 years. The last time that I had a real normal W-2-ish job that wasn't provided by myself was 2008. And then last year when I went to work for this eccentric tech organization called Futo that I now work for. So I'm very much so missing the employee perspective, given that for a 15-year time period, I was not a traditional employee. That being said, I still figured I would go over this because some of it I found interesting. It says, one estimate found that at least 2.1 million people who retired earlier than expected. Another calculated a shortfall of 2 million immigrants at the height of the pandemic. Other research pointed to 1 million or more out of work because of long COVID. With the jobless rate at a 53-year low and more employees on payrolls now than they were counted before the pandemic, how can workers truly be missing? And one of the questions that I have is, how is this counted? Is this one of those things where you count, when you're talking about jobless rates, you stop counting people as jobless once they decide, I give up, I'm never going to make a living, I'm just going to live with my parents, or I'm going to retire early and just live in a 500 square foot condo instead of live my dream of buying a house? How are you actually counting it? The article continues. What gives? Economists acknowledge that data about what motivates workers to drop out is hard to come by, and that trends underpinning their research, like a drop in immigration, have changed over the pandemic's course. Finally, some workers may have been counted more than once, like baby boomers who retired because of long COVID. How about you ask them? Why don't you actually walk up to people that did not go back to work and ask them, why did you not go back to work? Hey, I noticed for the past 14 years you had consistent employment. After 2020, you just seemed to decide, fuck it, I'm done. Can you tell me why? I mean, this isn't rocket science here. This is just walk up to people and ask. While many older workers initially left the pandemic workforce out of health concerns, others chose to hang their hats for good. Fed Chair Jerome Powell has cited research by the central bank's economists that show excess retirements account for more than 2 million of the missing workers, but that hasn't been updated per the Labor Department's revision. And my question again, why are they retiring? Maybe you would help to ask them. A higher than average number of deaths in recent years, mainly from COVID-19, accounts for about 400,000 of the labor force shortfall, according to the Fed. The pandemic killed many more people, about 1.1 million, but the majority were older and likely to be out of the workforce. And again, yes, a disproportionate amount of the COVID deaths were likely among people that were already retired when you just look at a chart that shows you COVID deaths by age. So the amount of people that died during COVID does not account for the labor shortfall. Harvard University economist Raj Shetty and his colleagues tracked another category of missing workers in a recent paper. Low-wage service workers who were displaced from their jobs early in the pandemic and never came back. That's illustrated best by payrolls in sectors like leisure and hospitality and restaurants that still lag their pre-COVID levels. Ding, 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 ding. Yes, people that worked for businesses like this that never reopened as a result of being destroyed by shit policy, which I've gone over in many videos that I'll include in this playlist down below, Dead City Neighborhood Walkthroughs, where I simply walk through what is considered to be the greatest city on earth and show you that most of it is still empty. The researchers zeroed in on affluent areas in big cities like New York, where office staff stopped getting haircuts and eating out because they were working from home. These neighborhoods are the most likely to still be missing low-income workers today. Yes, businesses that no longer exist are businesses that can no longer employ people. Very well done. Actions have consequences. Welcome to the real world. But above all, the thing that drives me nuts here is that there's no mention in this article of what happens when you crush people's hopes and dreams. Because yes, even low-wage workers, and don't tell any of these people that you can actually talk to them to figure out how they think, have dreams, hopes, aspirations for what they want to do with their life. They aspire to more than living in an apartment with 4 to 6 roommates. And they are willing to work 12, sometimes even 15 hours a day to try to get themselves out of those shitty situations. God knows I was in the early days. When you take the carrot that has been dangled in front of them and just immediately just pull it like a mile ahead, it can be depressing. I forget where I heard this exactly, and feel free to fact check on me on this. There was something along the lines of like when mice and rats are playing with each other, if you have a big one and a small one, if the big one doesn't let the small one win, at least like 30% of the time, the small one just says, F it, I give up, I'm not playing anymore, screw this. Even with a rat, It has to be able to win just enough of the time to not feel like it is completely useless. And when you look at things like the American dream of being able to retire and own a house and stuff like that someday, and you just look at what has gone on over the past few years. Here is a house in a beautiful part of New Hampshire. This house sold for $394,000 in 2016. It then sold again for $850,000 in 2021. In 5 years, this house doubled in value. And I could go over this with many listings in many different neighborhoods. Zillow used to actually make it easy because they used to have a little graph, and I don't know where the little graph went, where you could just literally see it very easily visually laid out. Here's another one. This was $349,000 about 10 years ago, and recently just sold for $699,000, which is just about double. So when you're thinking of what it is you want to do with your life, how you want to retire, where you want to retire to, and you see things like houses double in price over the course of just a few years, that's depressing. When you see that all of the businesses in your neighborhood have closed to the point where an entire block can just be signs like this that say available for rent, retail space for lease, retail space for lease, so you can't even jump from one shitty job to another very easily because they're all closed, that's depressing. People need to feel like there is some carrot that they have any chance of achieving. And if the carrot is moving away from them, like slowly at a steady pace, they at least think, crap, at least I have the chance that I could run and catch up. When the carrot is running away full speed, when the carrot is being towed by an F-350 turbo diesel and you are pedaling your bicycle to try to catch up to the carrot, it's just like, screw this. Why bother? When I speak to people that have not re-entered the workforce, and again, to be clear, this is anecdotal. This is not me doing a survey of hundreds of thousands or millions of people. Every single one of them has just expressed to me and with a little bit of shame, I don't see the point. I'm never going to reach my hopes and dreams. I'm never going to be able to afford to have a family. I'm never going to be able to buy a house. And when I finally started saving up for it, the places that I wanted to look at in the neighborhoods that I wanted to go in almost doubled in value. I'm done. And what bothers me is not seeing this kind of stuff mentioned in these articles because it's obvious. It's the very low-hanging fruit answer to these particular questions that you see. And to be clear, I don't think this is a good thing. A lot of the path that I got on now is because I was willing to work at crappy jobs where there was very little potential for the future. In fact, the entire way that I got into fixing MacBooks is because the failure of a studio that I was working at closed, and I was only making sometimes $200 to $400 a month while I was there. There was this one person there that was willing to pay me big bucks. When I say big bucks, I mean like $30 a session. $30 a session. That was good money back in the day. And I needed a machine to work on this person's stuff. I needed a Mac to use Logic, but I didn't have a Mac because you're not going to catch me dead with Apple products. So what did I do? I bought one that was used. It showed up broken. I got a partial refund. I wound up selling it when I didn't need it. Made a little bit of money, and I said, wait a second. I usually make like $400 a month. I just made $200 for 15 minutes of my time. Let me try that again. It was a complete and utter accident. And the entire way that I even got into hardware repair in the first place so that I could have some foundation for when I decided to finally get into board repair is because while working at Avatar Studios with the intention of recording music for a living, I realized that I didn't really get along well with any of the production assistants or the interns that were looking to be production assistants. But I got along really, really well with the people that worked in the tech room. It was completely unexpected that I would not get along with all of the assistant engineers and production assistants, but that I would get along amazingly, spittingly well with the people that worked on the hardware. So I started working on the hardware as a result. So much of what happens on your path to doing what it is you do when you become successful are these just series of random accidents, but all these random accidents occur because you're actually out there doing something. People staying home and doing nothing at all and saying, screw it, I give up, to be clear, I don't think that is a good thing for them or for the world. But you have to understand why it is happening by actually having conversations with them so that you could work towards fixing it. And one of the things that I plan on telling my children is that where you start working is very rarely where you will end up working. What's important is not exactly what it is you're doing. It's just being on a path. It's just getting out there, talking to people, trying different things, and walking some sort of path through life. You're going to bumble around a lot. You're probably not going to do what it is you get your degree in or what it is you set out to do. But what I can guarantee you is that if you go out and you actually try to do something, you will be massively better off than you will if you sit home and do jack shit. If you sit home and you do jack shit, your chances of becoming successful are radically lower than they are, even if you are bagging groceries at the grocery store. Because again, when you're around people, when you're talking to and meeting people, you never know who you may talk to. You never know what idea may come up. You never know where that idea may lead you. So I don't think it's a good thing that all of these people are leaving. But the reality is, if the carrot is so far away from them, I can't blame them for it. This is not a good thing. All of these people leaving the workforce is not a good thing, because less people working means less goods and services being produced. Less goods and services being produced means bidding up the prices of the goods and services that exist right now, which means more and more inflation, which means more and more people getting blackpilled, more and more houses doubling in price over the course of a couple of years, and more people deciding, screw it, I don't want to work anymore, continuing this horrible vicious cycle. And above all, if people don't start out doing something, they may never have the happy accident that winds up leading them through their course in their life and to their career. Again, even just the stuff like board repair, as I've mentioned on this channel before, I had a vendor that told me after charging me $87 for something that didn't work, I booted this into Windows and it worked because you guys were complaining that it didn't boot into OS X. When it booted into Windows, I considered it fixed and billed you $87. I did not get into board repair because I set out for it or because I got a college degree in it. I got into board repair because that conversation with that vendor made me so sick and disgusted. I thought to myself, if you effing idiots can do this, then so can I. Most of the people that were successful at whatever it is they did, they walked a very strange ass path to get there. And the most depressing part of it all is that we're not having an honest conversation about why people are choosing to leave that path early on so that we can then come up with some sort of honest but effective methods to keep people on a path that may actually lead them to success one day by addressing some of the issues that they have. When I read articles like this that are like, why are people leaving? I have no idea. Where did these people even leave? Oh, it seems like some people that were left were low-income workers. I wonder why. Ask them. Open your eye. I don't know. Reading these articles can be very, very aggravating and also very, very depressing to see just how out of touch the people writing them are. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And lastly, before I end the video, I gotta know, what do you think of this shirt? I used to like these shirts, but there's something about this material. Again, it's mostly cotton, not a lot of polyester, but it's just enough polyester that you have this thing that happens where no matter how much you iron it, how much you put it in the dryer, for how long, it just bunches up everywhere. And it's like you can see all these little creases, and it's just weird. And I don't know if it's bothering me as much as it is because I'm focusing on it too much, or if it's actually annoying and a low quality shirt. Like, you see that? You see, when I oh, it's horrible. It's just horrible. Anyway, let me know. I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.